Hey everybody! So, got a break freaking bunch of news right here, okay? Before I get to talking about Georgia Tech recruiting, uh, if you might not have noticed already, but Sea Dog shaved his head, so there's no longer the sweet freaking iconic Sea Dog hair. My gorgeous flowing hair that you're all used to. It's very sad. It's gonna have to be something that we're all gonna have to get used to together. Maybe one day it will return, but for now, we're in a new era. It's a new, clean-shaven era, and who knows? Who knows if it will return? If you're very sad about that, let me know, and maybe I'll grow it back out for you one day. So I had to address the situation going on with Georgia Tech recruiting because we have been inundated the past week and a half or so with a ton of commits for the 2024 class. And we all know the 23 class, it was what it was. Brent Key had about a month to put it together while also putting together a staff. So it wasn't, lighting the world on fire or anything like that. He just he had to do what he had to do. Didn't have much time to put that class together, so wound up being in the mid 40s, I think, recruiting. Not very good. Definitely not one of these Collins classes that we were enjoying getting with 4 stars and whatnot like that. But I really think that Brent Key is heading in the right direction and has only scratched the surface of what he can do with recruiting here. Okay, so. Like I said, we have had a ton of commits over the past week and a half or so. A lot of players that are buying into the Georgia Tech vision and what Brent Key is, kind of selling here. Seems to me that Brent Key is much more genuine than Jeff Collins ever was. He was somewhat of a used car salesman. No need to rehash that. I think we all know how we all feel about Jeff Collins. There's one thing he could do was recruiting that Jeff Collins. So, when we hired Brent Key, obviously the results on the field were one thing. Clearly with the players that he had, I was thinking, okay, well, clearly he's a good on-field coach, a good middle of the season. He showed the ability to adapt on the fly during the middle of the season and overcome adversity, things like injuries and such as that. So, that was all something that Brent Key has already proven to us. But what we're looking at now in the offseason, right, is recruiting, because that's obviously probably about half of being the coach, or maybe more, is recruiting. A lot of debates going on about, well, what's better, being the X's and O's guy or being the recruiter. And so, it's an important skill for both. You got to be both to be successful in college football, really. In my opinion, I think coaching is a little more important than recruiting, because I look at guys like Dave Clawson at Wake Forest, who recruits in the absolute dumpster, but he'll find these 3 stars, diamonds in the roughs, and surprise everybody with how good they are and develop them into good players. And that's kind of what I would rather have in a coach, as opposed to somebody like Mario Cristobal, who just gets all this talent and skates by on that. Clearly, when they run up against a team that is tougher than them, then they lose. But that's just you got to have both to really be successful in college football. And I gotta say, Georgia Tech fans are very excited right now about all these commits we've been getting and everything. We've been beating out a lot of schools that we're not beating out crappy schools. When you look at the offers some of these kids have, we're beating out teams like Ole Miss, Penn State, Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, stuff like that. Not often we beat out Alabama, but it does happen occasionally. So I think that, as exciting as it has been lately, I think it's only the tip of the iceberg of what Brent Key can accomplish here. So, Jeff Collins' thing was that he was a salesman. He never produced any results on the field, unlike Brent Key. And at the moment, if we look at Brent Key objectively and what he's done, he's gone 4-4 as an interim. Obviously, we know that's impressive because of everything he's had to deal with. But, when you kind of look at the overall picture, it's not like Brent Key has done anything where, we need to build him a statue as much as we'd like to because he's such a great guy. And, everybody's really taken to him. And, he has a great reputation already. He's very likable and everything like that. He still has, during the season, only gone 4-4. So when you're pitching to these recruits, there's not much on-field results to show. Now, Jeff Collins might have been able to lie to these recruits and sell them on something without actually producing anything. But as we've seen, that only lasts so long, right? We went into the 2021 season. If I could take us back, that I've hashed this out several times already, but it is relevant, I think. So we head into the 2021 season with a top 25 recruiting class. It was poised to be one of the top recruiting classes in Georgia Tech history, or if not the best recruiting class in Georgia Tech history. And we head into the 2021 season with that after having gone 3-9 for the past few years under Jeff Collins and not have anything to kind of proof of concept on the field. All we have is this vision that we're sowing, and year 3 was supposed to be the year that, we really took off, made a bowl, and impressed these recruits. Well, clearly that didn't happen. It was a disastrous year. All the recruits decommitted. So you can only get so far with selling the recruits on this idealistic image of what you think you want the team to be like, right? So it is, you have to produce results on the field. So what I'm saying is Brent Key might not be the salesman that Jeff Collins was because, see, Jeff Collins came in his first offseason and put together a really impressive recruiting class, right? Well, Brent Key, he's got us pushing the top 20. I won't count the 23 class, right? He's got us pushing the top 25 nationally in recruiting for the year 24. I do probably expect that to change because, like I said, when we look at the class here in a minute, it is a lot of 3-stars, and just the sheer amount of them. There are going to be 5 and 4 stars that commit to other teams and will get leapfrogged, I'm sure. But I think that there's still room for this class to grow. I think that there is an even higher heights for us to go to, right? So if you're excited now about this recruiting class, is what I'm saying is I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think that once we get into the season and start showing, let me tell you something. Georgia Tech is going to surprise people this year. You can mark my words, and you can bookmark this, and if I'm wrong, you can come back and, during the season, if we don't make a bowl, I'll set, the expectation there. If we don't make a bowl, you can come back. I'll eat my crow. I will literally eat my crow. I have a bet with one of my companions on the ACC show, Luke Walker, a North Carolina fan. If we don't beat North Carolina, I will have to literally eat crow. And I believe in this year so much. It's an important year too. It's a crossroads for Georgia Tech. With everything going on with realignment, I believe strongly that we really need to make Georgia Tech a valuable commodity in realignment. And you need to pretty much win games like that. Of course, it also takes investment in the football program and stuff like that. But, it really does matter what you do on the field. So that's what I'm looking for, to this year. And I think that Brent Key is going to surprise some people. We're going to upset some teams. Our record is going to, I think, not only exceed, hit the over in the Vegas over, but we're going to smash it by 3 wins or more even. The over under I think was set at 4.5. I think we can get to 7 wins at least 6. I think it's going to really surprise some people nationally. People aren't expecting much, so naturally, it might work in our favor because that's going to draw a lot of attention to Georgia Tech, and people are going to be surprised. A lot of people are going to be surprised except for me. I'll be happy. I'll be elated. I'll be overjoyed. But I won't be surprised when Georgia Tech comes out and punches some people in the mouth. I strongly believe in Brent Key and what he's doing and what he can do this upcoming year. I'm not saying we're going to win 9 games. I'm saying we could win 7 or 8. You know what I mean? I'm not saying we can compete for the ACC championship this year, even though we could. We did last year. But that's neither here nor there. If it was the Coastal, the divisions, if the divisions were still in there this year in the ACC, then I would say yes, we could compete to get to the ACC championship. Although they've done away with divisions now, so now it's the 2 best teams, and I highly doubt that Georgia Tech will be making the championship. I don't want to say anytime soon, but it's going to take some building up. It's going to be much harder. Our path is much harder to get to the ACC championship now than it would have been if the Coastal had stayed. But that besides the point. I wanted to look at, I've gone this long without really looking at the recruiting class. So why don't we take a look at these guys? Very exciting stuff here. Of course, I can work our way from the bottom here. All of these recruits you'll notice have committed here, very recently. So what is it, June 20th? So we've got a lot of kids here that have just committed in the past couple weeks. So this recruiting class is shaping up to be really nice. We're winning a lot of battles here, and you scroll through here, you look at the stars, because let's be real, stars do matter. Stars matter when you look at the top teams that are competing for the nationally. They've got a ton of star talent. And, of course, what we're seeing here is only, 3 stars. Of course, Kobe Young, huge commit that just committed yesterday, is listed by a 4-star, but by some other, recruiting services. I'm on 247 right now. They've got him as a high 3-star. It doesn't really matter, probably not. The line gets blurred. Of course, there are diamonds in the rough. In general, though, stars do matter. I'm not one of these people that says, oh, well, you can, do this and that with 3 stars. Of course, you can find 3-star players that are, underrated and everything. But, in general, it is better to have 4 stars than 5 if you can. The day that Georgia Tech recruits 5 stars will be a happy day for Sea-Dog. And who knows? It might be sooner than you think. I believe we only have 1 5-star in our entire history of the school, which is Calvin Johnson. Greatest wide receiver to ever walk the planet. But that's another day. So we've got a few unranked guys here. So what do you do? How do you kind of assess this when you've got 3 stars? Because, I see a lot of people that get really excited over watching tape and everything. And I'm not a big guy on watching tape for high school players, because obviously it's just the highlights. You know what I mean? Obviously, you go on their Huddle account and you can get excited watching them run over. Look, if you're going to be getting offers from Power 5 schools, obviously you're going to be in another caliber of player of most high school players. I played high school football and I was freaking terrible. Okay, and these players, for normal people, these players aren't normal people. So, of course, they're going to have amazing highlights and put up these crazy numbers and everything. So, I don't put too much stock into some of the highlights that these high school players can put up. A lot of people get excited about that. What I look at when I'm doing this is the offers that these players get from other schools, because a lot of the times the schools and the people that they have evaluating the players know much more about it than the recruiting services. There's millions of freaking high school students, and there's thousands and thousands or whatever of freaking high school players. Recruiting rankings can't get them all, right? There's going to be a lot of players that fly under the radar. There's going to be a lot of players that get a spotlight that, could be bust. So, in general, you trust the scouting staffs for a lot of these college teams to kind of give a better representation of that. And then, of course, if a player gets an offer from a school, then their ranking goes up, which a lot of people harp on when it comes to recruiting. I never really got that. Obviously, like I just got done saying, these staffs know more about it. So it is a thing that happens. The Bama bump is what they call it. If Alabama offers a player, their rating goes up. Alabama's offering a player, it means they're probably really good. So, that's what I look at for some of the players in these classes. And I'm not going to go through every player here, but you look at some of these guys, and some of them have absolutely no offers. Some of them have offers from Georgia Tech and Georgia Tech alone, and then they have offers from like FCS teams or like crappy, FBS teams, and that's it. So that is puzzling, to look at, and I will talk about that a little bit. But you got to look at it. It's probably most likely some kind of depth thing that our coaches are looking at, or maybe they just see something nobody else has, because when you're in Georgia, you kind of look at, you get to look at these high schools that teams nationally might not be privy to, especially if you have, high school coaches and stuff on your staff that know the area really well and know some of these guys what to look for. So, a couple players to highlight in this class, just very quickly. Of course, we had the situation with Jakari Williams and Duke Watson a month or so ago where they both decommitted. They were 2 4-stars that were leading this class. First goes Jakari Williams, who decommits. In my opinion, I think that Georgia Tech probably pulled the offer. I just got done mentioning looking at players' offers, and Jakari Williams, despite being a 3-star, didn't have many offers from many, Power 5 teams. So it seems like they probably, recruited him. He committed during the season last year when Brent Key was still interim, so he wasn't even officially coach yet. And it seems to me like, now that we're in the offseason, he had time to come to a camp. Chris Winkie, our quarterback's coach, took a look at what he's got, probably decided to pull the offer because he didn't think that he had what it takes. And so that's what it seems to me. I'm not coping. I'm not like sugarcoating anything. I really believe that's what happened because we turned around and had another quarterback commit the very next day, Aaron Philo, which I'll get to in a minute. However, Duke Watson probably was a casualty of that Jakari Williams decommitted. He was a 4-star running back we had committed, and now he decommitted shortly after Jakari Williams did. That was probably more of a loss than Jakari Williams himself, I'm thinking, but again, what can you do? Like I said, I do put stock in stars. So, I was looking at all these, 3-stars committing, and I was like, that's great and everything. But here comes Kobe Young yesterday, and I'm like, hey, here we go. A freaking 4-star. Let's go. Of course, you can look at, some of their – it's not, just a hard 3- and 4-star system. They have here their, numerical rating. And, he's an 8-9. That's a very high 3-star. That's borderline 4-star. And then you got 8-7s. And it's a sliding scale. So, you kind of got to look at that. And then that kind of gives it a little more depth. But so, obviously, I am very excited about Kobe Young. I'll go ahead and address that. 4-star wide receiver. Love having, a couple 4-stars. That's where we're at in our recruiting right now. A few 4-stars per class. Love having those, to kind of lead the class and get excited for and, be looking out for. So we this was huge. We go into Louisiana and take Kobe Young from him, and he had offers from, LSU and everything else. Decides to come to the freaking A. I mean, how awesome is that? Okay. So freaking stoked on Kobe Young. I am very excited. Our wide receiver room is absolutely stacked now, and it looks like they are really filling it out to recruit with recruiting too. So I'm very excited. It seems like I'll have this lead into the conversation about the two quarterbacks that we have, because we have had Aaron Philo, like I said, committed back when Jakari Williams had decommitted. He committed like right after. And then, of course, we had Graham Knowles commit this week also. So with the quarterbacks, the situation with them is, and I'll scroll down here so we can kind of take a look at them. Here's Aaron Philo. Here's Graham Knowles. They found two, 3-star guys. You look at their offers. I just got done saying how the offers are. You look at their offers, not particularly impressive with these two. However, I am excited because I think that these guys are what they're looking for in their system. It seems like, Coach Key has brought in Buster Faulkner, our new offensive coordinator, who is from University of freaking Georgia, which, I hate those bastards, but he brings him in there and seems to know what he wants. And from what I've seen, from what we've brought in the transfer portal this offseason, and just the type of quarterbacks that we're going after, having transfer in and recruiting, it looks like we're going to want to be pass first, which is not something I'm kind of used to as a Tech fan. Our running game has, been a little bit mid for the past couple of years since, Jahmyr Gibbs left and J.P. Mason. Not even just Ja, but, losing J.P. Mason too. We haven't had a back that could even compare to him, let alone Jahmyr Gibbs. Well, Jahmyr Gibbs was really special talent. But we haven't even had the caliber of J.P. Mason, which is tough. Hopefully Dante Smith is able to break out this year and kind of fulfill that role. But what it really seems like is, this past year, when Brent Key took over, in the games that we won, what was it that were leaning on? It was our passing game, not our freaking running game. Our running game was not great. So the wide receivers is something that I've seen them really focus on, and also tight ends, because I've talked about this a lot. The tight end situation at Georgia Tech, they had to start from the beginning. It's something I've had the most patience on, since the transition from the triple option, because there were 0 tight ends in the triple option system, and now we're having to basically build that from scratch, that position group. And it's really hard to recruit that when you have no history of, these players. What do they come to freaking play college ball for? To get drafted in the NFL. Well, why would you go to Tech, whom has no freaking history of getting tight ends drafted? I will like to point out that Darren Waller is the highest paid tight end in the NFL, but we had him playing wide receiver, so can't even take credit for that. But and then of course this thing with E.J. Jenkins last year, like, the dude is freaking huge. Why is he not playing tight end? It makes no sense to me. He's not, he's not super fast, but he just could have been a great tight end. But don't even get me started on that. I've said that a few times too. But tight end is something that they've been focusing on. Speaking of recruiting, this Kylan Fox is a 4-star tight end with a lot of interest in Georgia Tech. We're in this top 3, it seems. And that is a kid that I really, really would like to see, because that's what Georgia Tech really needs, is like a marquee tight end to kind of kickstart the position. The past few years, it's just been absolutely dreadful at the tight end position. It's not been good at all. So, that is something that I would really like to see, is to get that kid committed to Georgia Tech and really, really get that tight end position started. But as for now, going into this year, we've discussed it several times, but it's just not great. The situation is not great with the tight ends. So wide receiver is a different story. Of course, I got going on this, but so what I'm trying to say is I have a tendency to ramble, but it is the off season. So what else are you going to listen to? Well, you're probably listening to Rec Talk and Bryce Coon and all them, but C-Dog needs to throw his hat here and talk about the freaking recruiting, okay? So I want to talk about the quarterbacks, Aaron Philo, he has. I've never talked about him on the channel yet. He is somebody I'm looking forward to him. Okay, he is putting up absolutely insane numbers, and I just kind of downplayed the numbers that you're putting. But this man's putting up 4,600 yards. He's on track to break Trevor Lawrence's record for passing yards in high school. So that's got to mean something, right? That's got to mean something. Like I said, he's throwing all over these fools in freaking high school and looks amazing. Doesn't have many offers, but from what I'm seeing, and that goes for Graham Knowles too. Graham Knowles, 6'7", dude. Like whoa, that dude is freaking huge. But neither of them, what I'm looking at is neither of them have very many offers. What I'm thinking is that Georgia Tech is looking at them as a fit for their system. A passer, a pocket passer, even is what Buster Faulkner, I think, is looking for in his offense, and that is something that I just think would work really well for what Georgia Tech and Brent Key is trying to do now under Buster Faulkner, and we haven't obviously seen them, but all signs point to us being pass first. Still trying to get used to that, but it is exciting. It is exciting after just running the ball. Run the ball. It is exciting to see us put some passes downfield, and it is exciting to see us focus on the quarterback and wide receiver positions and tight end too, although that's going to take a while. It is very fun to see that. So I think I've gone on long enough about this recruiting class. I've got them pulled up here. It's obviously very exciting. Obviously still trucking on defense. Haven't had, we've had a couple. We've had a couple commits here at linebacker and D-line, and who's to say? But I mean, I briefly went through and looked at some of the offers these guys have. We're beating out schools like Ole Miss, NC State, Penn State. We're beating schools like that out for these guys. So you always love to see that. Most of these players did have offers from a lot of schools like that. This Trey Horn is somebody I'm excited about. Is talking about a sub 4.3 speed in the 40, which is absolutely insane. That's really fast. If you pay attention to 40-yard dash times, he's listed as an athlete, but what it seems like is that from his description, it has on here that he mostly did a lot of carries at running back and catching at wide receiver, but he's also played some on the D-line, I think, and at quarterback a little bit, but probably looking at offensive weapon at Trey Horn with that speed, so who knows. That's pretty exciting. A lot of speed that we've been recruiting and having come in through the transfer portal and everything, like with Bryce Thompson. I know he decommitted, but that was something that we were very excited about. Like Christian Leary, the transfer that came in this year, and now Trey Horn, they're really focusing on speed, which is great, speed and everything, but we also got to look at route running and can you catch the dang ball too. So that might be kind of what holds back the 4- and 5-star ranking for these guys that have this like insane speed. But that can always be developed, and then you can get yourself a really good player there. I just wanted to take a look at this class, address it. Brent Key is killing it on the recruiting trail, winning a lot of recruiting battles, and it's very exciting as it is right now. But guess what? I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. I truly think that, Georgia Tech has a very high recruiting ceiling that we just never met. And I really hope Brent Key is the guy that can take us to those heights and get those recruiting, 4 and 5 stars players coming to Tech. Never seen that in my life. I would love to see it. Back when I was a kid, back in the Chan Gailey days, he was a pretty good recruiter. Couldn't perform necessarily on the field, So Can Brent Key do that? I think so. I think he's going to have this team really well coached. I like what I've seen from him so far. I have faith and confidence and ability. And I think as good as this recruiting has been now, as many recruiting battles as we're winning now, I think it can get better once the players see that Georgia Tech is serious business, okay? They're going to see that on the field this year. And, as fans, we need to do our part too, because these 4 and 5-star players want to play in front of a bunch of people. They don't want to play in front of nobody. And, they say that, winning cures everything. So what I'm looking for is to surprise some people and get those stands filled out this year. So that'll help recruiting too. And I have faith that it can happen. I went to the Duke game this past year, and it was absolutely loud as hell. Even though there was barely anybody there, the crowd was not great at homecoming, but it was loud as hell. And I think that we actually did have a good home field advantage in that game, despite having barely anyone there. So, the Tech fans now may not be many of us, but we are passionate, and the few and the proud, the Georgia Tech fans. You know what I mean? So I think that is all I got for you guys today. Absolutely been a blast to watch, this recruiting class go down, and I'm really looking forward to what Brent Key is going to cook up, and especially what heights he can take us to once the season starts and we surprise some people. So with that all being said, thank you for watching. Go Jackets, and I'll see you guys next time.